This is a companion video for my Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic Let's Play. It will not impact that story in any way. Rather, it exists to help you make the best choices in character creation should you pick up Knights of the Old Republic, a game I do recommend. Let's start from the beginning. Clicking on New Game immediately drops you into character creation. No hoopla. The first thing you see are 6 figures on screen. Mousing over each of them indicates whether that figure is male or female, as well as its class. Don't worry about appearance, you will have control of that later. The 3 classes you have to choose from are Soldier, Scout, and Scoundrel. I will cover each of these later. For now, though, we will talk about what is common to the classes, rather than why you would choose one over the others. After selecting a class, you are prompted to either select Quick Character or Custom Character. Quick Character will automatically allocate your attributes, skills, and feats according to your selected class. For now, let's continue by clicking on Custom Character. There are 6 steps of wildly varying importance to creating a custom character. The first is selecting a portrait, which has no gameplay effects and is purely aesthetic. Feel free to scroll through and select whichever one strikes your fancy. Attributes. When you select attributes, you will be greeted with a pop-up briefly explaining that attributes are everything. More than any other data point, attributes determine the character. Fret not, though, for after this, you'll be more than qualified to allocate points to your attributes to your heart's content. Right off the bat, we see at the top of our point allocation screen that we begin with 30 points to spend, as well as a point cost to raise our selected attribute and the modifier associated with that attribute at that value. The point cost to raise an attribute by 1 is 1 for every number between 8 and 14. Raising from 14 to 15 or from 15 to 16 costs 2 points, and raising from 16 to 17 and from 17 to 18 costs 3. No attribute can be raised above 18 at character creation. So, for example, raising our strength from 8 to 14 will reduce our available points from 30 down to 24, but raising it from our base 8 to 18 would lower our available points from 30 down to a minuscule 14. As we can see, there are rapidly diminishing returns for raising an attribute above 14, so think long and hard about whether you are willing to risk inadequacy in one area for excellence in another. The modifier of an attribute is poorly explained. Obviously, a higher number is better, but by just how much? At the risk of being flippant, about 5%. Most actions are decided on a roll of a 20-sided die, and the modifier is added to any roll which uses that attribute. So, if I need to make a dexterity check and my modifier is +1, then the game rolls a 20-sided die and adds my +1 modifier to it. If the modified number beats the target number, called a difficulty class or DC for short, then I succeed at the check. If the modified number is lower than the DC, I fail. This die roll happens behind the screen, so don't worry about it cluttering your screen. How is the modifier determined, I hear you ask? Well, it's simple, really. At 10, the modifier is 0. At 12 and every 2 points thereafter, it goes up by 1. So a score of 17 would have a modifier of +3. The pattern also holds when going below 10, so a score of 8 or 9 would have a -1 modifier. It is impossible to have a score below 8 at character creation, though certain events may temporarily lower one's attributes below 8. The pattern holds even at such impossibly low numbers as 1, which is a -5 modifier. Now that we know how attributes work, let's talk about what they are. Strength measures physical power. A high strength adds modifiers to melee damage and chance to hit, which is important for characters that use close combat weapons, vibroblades, lightsabers. No skills reference a character's strength. Strength, rather, impacts both the to-hit roll and the damage roll of a melee weapon. The strength modifier is added to both types of roll, in addition to any other modifiers. At first level, this matters more on the to-hit side of things, though as the game progresses, the bonus damage will begin to matter more. Raise this attribute if you want a bruiser who beats up the bad guys with brawn instead of ballistics. Dexterity measures agility and reflexes. A high dexterity adds modifiers to ranged attack rolls, blasters, grenades, and increases a character's defense rating, making them harder to hit. Stealth is the only skill that references a character's dexterity. A character's dexterity modifier is added to the to-hit rolls of ranged weapons and, notably absent from the in-game description, lightsabers. The dex bonus to lightsabers only occurs if a character's dexterity modifier is higher than their strength modifier. The dex bonus also does not impact damage, only to hit, so it's not quite as offensive as strength. Dexterity also impacts defense. The dexterity modifier is added to a character's defense rating up to a certain number based on the armor they are wearing. Usually, the better armors have a lower max dex bonus, so it's not strictly better to favor one or the other. Lastly, dexterity affects a character's reflex saving throw, which certain non-standard attacks may call for. Constitution represents health and resiliency. A high constitution adds modifiers to the vitality points gained at each level up. This is important for everyone, but is essential for soldiers and Jedi Guardians. No skills reference a character's constitution. As the in-game description says, a character's con modifier is added to the vitality points a character gains each time they level up. While this bonus is usually comparatively small, the difference between a fight victorious and a game over is a single hit point, so neglect this attribute at your peril. Additionally, Constitution affects a character's fortitude save, which certain non-standard attacks may call for. Intelligence represents knowledge and reasoning. A high intelligence adds modifiers to the number of points a character has to spend on essential skills. Computer use, demolitions, and repair all reference a character's intelligence. Beyond these skills, intelligence has a niche effect on the sniper shot feat. The only other thing it impacts is a character's skill points gained at first level and each level thereafter. Don't dump it, but it's not all that important. Wisdom represents willpower and perception. A high wisdom adds modifiers to Jedi Force points and Force power saving throws. The Force powers of a Jedi with high wisdom are also much harder to resist. Awareness, security, and treat injury all reference a character's wisdom. Certain Force powers have their DCs affected by the user's wisdom. Finally, wisdom affects a character's will saving throw, which certain non-standard attacks may call for. Charisma represents personality and the ability to lead. A high charisma adds modifiers to Force-related feats and powers that are very important to all the Jedi classes. It is also central to any persuasive talker. Persuade is the only skill that references a character's charisma. Force power DCs are affected by charisma. Despite being a slightly off-brand wisdom, charisma arguably has a bigger impact on the game, since persuasion does affect what options are available to you in dialogue. Be sure to think about whether charisma is a worthwhile investment for your build or not. Skills. When you select skills, a pop-up appears to explain in brief how skills work. It also explains DCs, though it uses the term difficulty check rather than the more standard difficulty class. Skills are not quite as important as attributes, but they still have a large impact on the game. Each skill is related to a given attribute, and, when that skill is called for, it adds both the ranks that character has in that skill and the modifier of the related attribute to the check roll to determine whether or not that action succeeds or fails. In the upper left corner of your screen, you will see points remaining. At first level, you gain a large number of points based off of your class and your intelligence modifier. Every level up thereafter, you will be granted a number of points to allocate, which is 1/4 what you had received at first level, to allocate as you please. In the upper right corner, you will see a point cost associated with the highlighted skill. Each rank in that skill will cost that many points to raise by 1. Immediately beneath that is a description of whether the skill is a class skill or a cross-class skill. Class skills are easier to raise, always being 1 point for one rank, and can be raised higher, 4 ranks at first level and 1 additional max rank at each level beyond. Cross-class skills are harder to train. They cost 2 points per rank and may be only raised to half the maximum, rounded down, that a class skill may. Computer use allows a character to slice computer programs using disposable logic RAMs called computer spikes. A character might disable gun turrets or flood a patrol area, with more complicated tasks requiring more spikes. A high rank in this skill reduces the number of spikes required by 1 to a minimum of 1 for every 4 points total, including the attribute score modifiers. Intelligence affects a character's modifiers in computer use, though it doesn't perfectly cover for it. Computer use is a class skill for scouts, Jedi consulars, and both types of droid. Demolitions can be used to set, recover, or disarm mines. Such devices are either low, DC 15 to set, medium, DC 20 to set, or high difficulty, DC 25 to set. Attempting to disarm the mine adds +5 to the DC. Attempting to recover the mine adds +10 to the DC. This skill cannot be used untrained. Intelligence affects a character's modifiers for demolitions, which may free up points to put anywhere else. Outside of combat, a 20 is always rolled to set, disarm, or disable a trap. This means that a total bonus of plus 20 is all that is necessary to always recover the most difficult traps while not in combat. If merely disarming a trap is more your style, then a paltry plus 10 will cover you for the whole game. Demolitions must have ranks in it in order to be used at all. Demolitions is a class skill for soldiers, scouts, scoundrels, Jedi consulars, and combat droids. Stealth governs the use of camouflage devices to enter stealth mode. If a character equips such a device and activates stealth mode, opponents must make an awareness check versus the character's stealth skill or be unable to detect them, even if the character is in direct line of sight. A character in stealth mode can set, disable, and recover mines, use computers and repair droids, and open doors or containers. Party members will not automatically enter combat while in this mode. Combat cancels stealth mode. Stealth mode will not work without a camouflage unit. Units of higher quality grant a bonus to the skill. Dexterity affects a character's modifiers for stealth. A character engaged in stealth must be in solo mode as well, so, should they be detected, they are likely on their own for any ensuing combat. Enemies must make separate awareness checks against your stealth roll, which further reduces the likelihood of success. Stealth is great when it works, but it can take a while to put enough ranks into it to get it worth using. Stealth is a class skill for scoundrels. Awareness governs the ability of a character to spot objects hidden by stealth. If a successful check of this skill is made against the stealth skill of an enemy or the DC of a mine, the enemy or object becomes visible. Awareness is always active. Wisdom affects a character's modifiers for awareness. Awareness checks are rolled automatically when necessary, so don't fret about needing to be in some kind of search mode. The in-game description says that awareness helps detect hidden enemies, but no enemies use stealth, so the only function of awareness is to detect hidden mines. Outside of combat, awareness rolls are made near constantly, so it's functionally an automatic 20. The highest DC for any hidden mine is 40, so a character only needs a combined plus 20 from all sources to detect mines. Awareness is a class skill for every class except for expert droids. Only the main character can select this skill during level up. Persuade options appear in dialogue when interesting or sensitive information is available that a character might otherwise be reluctant to reveal. When selected, rank in this skill is compared with how extreme the request is, difficulty class low, medium, or high relative to player level. A guard might easily agree to increase a bounty, but convincing him to leave his post would be much harder. Charisma affects a character's modifiers for Persuade. This skill is important for story reasons, but it doesn't inherently make your character better. It's always worth dropping a few points into Persuade, though your exact mileage may vary. If it's your first time playing, I suggest dropping at least half as many points as possible into Persuade. If you're more experienced or just want to get to the fighting, then skip over this one entirely. Don't say I didn't warn you, though, that the true meat of Star Wars will probably be lost. Persuade is a class skill for scoundrels and all Jedi classes. Repair allows a character to fix disabled mechanical devices like droids using packages of parts. The number of parts kits required increases with the difficulty of the repair. This skill reduces the number of parts by 1 to a minimum of 1 for every 4 points total, including attribute scores. This also modifies the amount of vitality points recovered when party member droids use repair kits, advanced repair kits, and construction kits on themselves to repair combat damage. Intelligence affects a character's modifiers for repair. The in-game description for repair is unclear. It isn't that each individual action to repair can be lowered to 1 parts kit, it's that the initial repair can be lowered to 1 parts kit, and all further actions drop to 0 parts kits. 36 ranks in repair is the highest a character can benefit from, though returns are rapidly diminishing beyond rank 16. Spoiler-free warning, it may behoove a scout to raise their repair skill to 17, though this only benefits a main player character. Repair is a class skill for scouts, Jedi consulars, and both droid types. Security is used to access electronic locking doors. Once a character invests points in this skill, it becomes one of the default options on targeted doors and containers. Security spikes can grant a bonus to the skill, and any in inventory will also appear as default option on targeted doors and containers. Characters with no points invested cannot attempt to use this skill. Wisdom affects a character's modifiers for security. It's a skill that does exactly what it says on the tin. Security is a class skill for scoundrels and both droid types. Treat injury improves the amount of damage healed when a med pack is used, adding the modified rank to the number of vitality points healed. Advanced med packs and life support packs apply modifiers to the user's skill, increasing the amount healed again. Wisdom affects a character's modifiers for treat injury. It's useful for every character to have points in treat injury, though exactly how much you should spec into the skill will vary based on how you choose to play the game. Treat injury is a class skill for soldiers, scouts, and all Jedi classes. Feats. When you select feats, a pop-up appears to explain the concept. Feats are varied enough that the pop-up isn't that useful. Shortly, there are two kinds of feats, active and passive. Active feats require you to choose to use them in combat. It is usually not worth focusing on more than a single active feat, especially for beginners to the game. Passive feats are always active, usually adding a bonus to some trait like a skill or a hit bonus with certain weapons. They are less dramatic than active feats, but they also don't carry drawbacks. Here, we will only cover feats available at character creation so as to not waste time talking about marginal differences between feats and improved feats and master feats. You will be granted a number of feats for free based on the class you chose at the beginning. Usually, these are some number of armor proficiencies and a couple of flavor feats. For example, a soldier would get heavy armor proficiency, but a scout would receive implant level 1. Critical Strike is an active feat which increases the critical threat range of melee attacks. A character who uses Critical Strike will lose a whopping 5 points of defense for an attack round, but the critical threat range of their melee weapon will double. Higher tiers make it more effective. Additionally, an enemy hit by a Critical Strike has a chance of becoming stunned for 6 seconds. A Scoundrel will receive this feat for free at first level, though any non-droid character may select it. Flurry is an active feat which increases the number of attacks a character can make in a round with melee weapons. A character who uses this feat will gain 1 additional attack per round, but will suffer a -4 on both their attack rolls and their defense for that round. The penalty lessens with higher tiers. A scout will receive this feat for free at first level, though any non-droid character may select it. Power Attack is an active feat which increases the damage of a melee attack. A character who uses Power Attack will suffer a -3 penalty to hit, but will gain a massive +5 on damage. The damage bonus goes up with higher tiers. Power Attack is phenomenal against enemies with low defense, but struggles to be useful against enemies with high defense. A soldier will receive this feat for free at first level, though any non-droid character may select it. Power Blast is an active feat which increases the damage of a ranged attack. It functions nearly identically to Power Attack, but for ranged weapons instead of melee. No extra attacks can be gained from other sources while using this feat. A soldier will receive this feat for free at first level, though any character that is not an expert droid may use it. Rapid Shot is an active feat which increases the number of attacks a character can make in a round with ranged weapons. It functions identically to Flurry, but for ranged weapons instead of melee. A scout will receive this feat for free at first level, though any character that is not an expert droid may select it. Sniper Shot is an active feat which increases the critical threat range of ranged attacks. It functions nearly identically to Critical Strike, but for ranged weapons instead of melee. This feat interacts weirdly with extra attacks gained from sources other than naturally. For the sake of simplicity, assume that you will receive no extra attacks from any source while using Sniper Shot. A Scoundrel will receive this feat for free at first level, though any character that is not an expert droid may select it. Armor Proficiency is a passive feat which allows the use of higher tiers of armor. Each tier also allows the use of lower tiers, so a character with heavy armor proficiency can use all armor, while a character with light armor proficiency can only use light armor. Scoundrels begin with light armor proficiency, scouts begin with medium armor proficiency, and soldiers begin with heavy armor proficiency, though all non-droid classes may select any armor proficiency feat they have the prerequisites for. Wookiees may not select any armor proficiency feats. Caution is a passive feat which increases a character's demolitions and stealth skills. There are no prerequisites for it. Functionally, it trades in a feat for an extra bonus and 2 skills. If you want to be good at sneaking and breaking down mines, perhaps this feat's for you. Conditioning is a passive feat which grants a character a bonus to their saving throws. The bonus is marginal, but most classes have a weakness on at least one of their saving throws. Depending on your build, this feat may be worth taking. Droids are not able to select this feat. Dueling is a passive feat which grants a bonus to a character's attack rolls and defense. It only gives a bonus to one-handed weapons, and even then, only if the character is not dual-wielding. It's a great selection if that's your style of play, else it's a waste of a feat. Expert droids cannot select this feat. Empathy is a passive feat which raises a character's persuade, awareness, and treat injury checks. If you feel that you need just a slight kick in your persuade checks, then empathy provides enough other bonuses to justify it. Droids are not able to select this feat. Gearhead is a passive feat which affects a character's repair, security, and computer use skills. It has no prerequisites. Personally, I cannot recommend this feat, but if you have a particular build in mind, go for it. It's not useless, just not as obviously useful as some other ones are. Implant is a passive feat which allows a character to use implants. This feat and its higher tiers almost function as a parallel to armor proficiency, but with a focus on non-standard effects rather than a straight defense increase. Scouts receive this feat and its higher tiers for free at the earliest opportunity. There are no prerequisites. Droids may not select this feat. Toughness is a passive feat which increases a character's longevity. At first level, it raises a character's vitality points by 1 per level every level. It has other effects at higher levels, though that is outside the scope of this video. I recommend this feat unreservedly. There are no prerequisites. Two-weapon fighting is a passive feat which reduces the penalty for dual wielding. The penalties for two weapons can be quite steep at low level, so I do not suggest using two weapons until you have maxed this feat tree out. I recommend against this feat and its tree for a first playthrough. Expert droids may not select this feat. Weapon proficiencies allow a character to use the associated weapon category. Every class is granted a number of weapon proficiency feats based on the weapons intended for that class to use. I recommend against ever taking any additional proficiency feats. Weapon Focus is a passive feat which grants a character a bonus to hit with a given weapon category. The bonus is marginal and must be selected for each category individually. I do not suggest taking a Weapon Focus feat at first level. Finalizing your character. After selecting your feats, you will be prompted to choose a name for your character. This is purely cosmetic and has no impact on gameplay. After selecting your name, you will be prompted to begin the game in earnest by selecting the button labeled Play. The classes. Now that we have a rough idea of what the various parts of a character do, let's move on to discussing the details of those classes available at the start of the game. Soldiers are a master of combat. They begin the game with these feats: Heavy Armor Proficiency, Blaster Pistol Proficiency, Blaster Rifle Proficiency, Heavy Weapon Proficiency, Melee Weapon Proficiency, Power Attack, and Power Blast. The soldier has a high rate of increasing his Fortitude saving throw bonus, but his Reflex and Will save leaves something to be desired. At first level, they receive skill points according to the formula 4 times 1 plus the Intelligence modifier. At each level up thereafter, a soldier will receive 1 point plus 1 point for each plus 2 in his Intelligence modifier. The class skills for the soldier are Demolitions, Awareness, and Treat Injury. A soldier has a base vitality of 10 and will receive 10 more vitality points every level up. Additionally, the soldier enjoys a class-based to-hit bonus equal to their level, making them hard to dodge at high levels. Choose this class if you want to dominate enemies in combat. Scouts are interesting, serving as an approximate middle ground between the combat-oriented soldiers and the skill-focused scoundrels. They begin the game with these feats: Armor Proficiency Medium, Blaster Pistol Proficiency, Blaster Rifle Proficiency, Melee Weapon Proficiency, Flurry, Rapid Shot, and Implant Level 1. Scouts have fast development in all of their saving throws, making their defenses against non-standard attacks as good as it gets. At first level, they receive skill points according to the formula 4 times 3 plus their Intelligence modifier. At each level up thereafter, a scout will receive 3 points plus 1 point for every plus 2 in his Intelligence modifier. The class skills for the scout are Computer Use, Demolitions, Awareness, Repair, and Treat Injury. A scout has a base vitality of 8 and will receive 8 more vitality points every level up. Additionally, a scout has a 2-hit bonus which increases by 3 every 4 levels. Choose this class if you want to experience a little bit of everything that the galaxy has to offer. Scoundrels are the movers and shakers of Knights of the Old Republic, tending to focus on having a wide array of skills at their disposal. They begin the game with these feats: Light Armor Proficiency, Blaster Pistol Proficiency, Blaster Rifle Proficiency, Melee Weapon Proficiency, Critical Strike, Sniper Shot, Scoundrel's Luck, and Sneak Attack. These last two are interesting since the only way to acquire those is to begin as a Scoundrel. Briefly, Scoundrel's Luck raises a Scoundrel's defense by 2 at level 1, 4 at level 6, and 6 at level 12. And Sneak Attack does increase damage to enemies which are unable to react to the Scoundrel, though what constitutes unable to react is a bit complicated. Scoundrels have fast development in their reflex saves, though their fortitude and will saves can easily be lacking. At first level, they receive skill points according to the formula 4 times 4 plus their intelligence modifier. At each level up thereafter, a scoundrel will receive 4 points plus 1 point for every +2 in his intelligence modifier. The class skills for the scoundrel are demolitions, stealth, awareness, persuade, and security. A scoundrel has the lowest base vitality of any class at 6, and will receive 6 more vitality points at each level up. Additionally, the scoundrel has a to-hit bonus which increases by 3 every 4 levels. Choose this class if you want to focus on problem solving and are willing to leave the violence to the big guys. Recommended first character for the inexperienced. If you have no experience with the D20 system on which this game is based, this explanation may have been a bit hard to internalize. Never fret. I have a recommended build for a first-time player which will help you get your sea legs. First, your class will be soldier. Second, select your portrait. Once again, this is cosmetic and won't affect gameplay. Third, assign scores to your attributes. Strength should be 14, dexterity should be 12, constitution should be 14, intelligence should be 12, wisdom should be 12, and charisma should be 14. Fourth, allocate your skill points. You will have 8 of them to spend. 4 will go into Persuade, which is a cross-class skill, and 4 will go into Treat Injury. Fifth, select your first level feat. You will select Toughness. Sixth, input your chosen name. Finally, select Play and begin the game. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this has been informative.